Hey there, this is Red. It's time for a Red review. And what we're going to review at this point is Rhino. He's the first villain that you fight in Marvel Champions. Usually, you've got the option of Claw or Ultron, but if you open up the box, really, you're suggested to go up against Rhino first. And he's the perfect starting villain. Him being the starting villain also means that make a lot of mistakes against him because it's your first time playing Marvel Champion. So I have made a ton of mistakes. I continue to make mistakes and overlook things while playing Rhino. So let's talk about some of that's going on here and kind of try to learn from some of this. So first off, you're going to grab your other side. You're going to grab your break-in against Rhino. And then you're going to see you're going to want Rhino 1, Rhino 2, and then your standard encounter set is kind of your starter way to go. If you're playing expert mode, you can go Rhino 2 and Rhino 3, and then you add in also the expert cards, the standard and the expert cards for taking on Rhino in expert mode. And then usually it talks about putting Bomb Scare in there as your side thing. Now, as you flip over and go into the main scheme here, there's just one. So there's a 1A and a 1B. And it goes out at 7 threat per player. That's a thing to remember is if you're playing 2-player, it goes up to 14, 3, 21 on. So that's a very low number if you are playing solo, but at 2 players, it's a little bit more reasonable. So you have to be very cautious single player about watching the scheme build up because a misplaced alter ego turn with an advance hitting, Rhino can potentially scheme out in one turn. So you have to be cognizant of that. There's some chances there. A lot of Rhino's cards don't have any boosts on them when mixed in with the standard encounter deck. He does have a decent number of 2s. You kind of just have to pay attention to what's out there. So the main thing to remember is Rhino's scenario is just one. There's just one scheme that you're going through, whereas Claw has 2, Ultron has 3. This one, once this is done, it's over with. And on the other ones, you'd go from Claw's first one. Once that one completes, you'd go over to the second one. But this one, there's just one. All right. So you're going to grab your break-in, and then you've got Rhino. All right. So Rhino schemes for 1, and he's got an attack of 2. He doesn't really do anything else. The other thing is he's got 14 hit points per player. So if you're playing 2-player, he starts out with 28. But he's got 1 scheme and 2 attack. Now, when he goes to scheme, because you're in alter ego mode, you flip 1 card off the encounter deck, and that's your boost card that Rhino gets. So he would scheme, let's say, Breaking and Taken here was in your encounter deck, and that's what you flip as your boost. He sees, let's say, Peter Parker out there, so he's going to scheme. He schemes, you flip your card, you look at your boost icons, 3. He's going to scheme for 3. You put 3 threat on the main scheme. All right, the other thing that happens is if he sees Spider-Man out there, he's going to come attack. Now, what you're going to have is you're going to have your encounter deck, and you're not going to know what's in your encounter deck, and he's going to be attacking for 2, and you have to decide what it is that you want to do at that point in time. Do I just take it as Spider-Man? Do I defend and take my defense value off? Do I have an ally block for me? You have to decide those options before you flip your boost card to see what happens, because Rhino could attack for 2. He could, because your boost card has no boost icons, or maybe it's got 2 boost icons, and in that case, he attacks for 4. So you have to make that decision before you flip your boost card. But yeah, that's kind of what Rhino's doing there. So he's got 1 scheme to attack. When you defeat Rhino 1, you do enough hit points equal to his hit points to take him out. He's going to go over to Rhino 2. Now, the thing to remember is when you go from one to the other, if he's got like a stun or a confuse on him, that stays on him, as well as if he has any other bonus cards on him. Like he usually doesn't have a toughness because you're damaging him to take him to the next level. But if he has like his enhanced Ivory Horn or maybe a charge on him, those will continue and stick with him from one form to the next form. So when he goes from 1 to 2, his enhanced Ivory Horn will stay on him if you haven't taken it off. All right. So when Rhino 2 comes out, after you've defeated Rhino 1, let's say you're playing standard mode, you defeat Rhino 1, Rhino 2 comes out, it says you look at your when revealed effect and Breaking and Taken is going to come out. So if it's already out, then it just stays out in the state that it's in. If it's not out, you're going to go looking through both the encounter deck and the discard pile and make sure that it comes out. And breaking and taking is annoying, so let's talk about breaking and taking really fast. The thing to note with breaking and taking is you're getting 2 threat, and that says 2 threat that's going on there normally, but then you also get an additional threat for each player. So remember that additional threat. It's really easy to look at this 2 and just put 2 out there, but actually it's got 2 plus number of players. So minimum of 3 threats going to be on there to start off the game. So if you're playing 2-player, it's 4, basic math stuff. Also, remember the additional encounter card. It's really easy to forget the additional encounter card, but that's really the reason you need to get that the heck out of there, is because additional encounter cards are bad. You want to make that go away. All right, so we were talking about advancing through Rhino. You got Rhino 1, you go to Rhino 2, and that's your standard mode. If you're playing Expert, you would fight Rhino 2, and then you would take Rhino 2 on to Rhino 3. And Rhino 3 says when he comes out, he's going to get Toughness, and then he's going to stun each hero. So the thing to remember is that if it's in the middle of an attack and you have like an after effect, the Toughness will go on him before the second part of the things go off. I'm trying to think, like if you were to Yarnborn afterwards, he would get Toughness, and then you would have to you would do your attack. You may want to trigger Yarnborn after an attack, but he would get his Toughness first, then Yarnborn would take care of the Toughness. All right, the other part of that is when revealed, he stuns each hero. Originally, when I played this, I stunned everything that was on the board. Allies don't get stunned. If you're in alter ego mode, you don't get stunned. He's only stunning the heroes, so only your Spider-Man, your Captain America. You have to be in hero form in order to get stunned. All right, so we talked a little bit about breaking and taking. Let's talk about crowd control. Crowd control is fairly easy. It's 2 threat per person, and it's got the crisis icon on it. So that just means that you need to make sure to take threat off of here before you try to take it off of the main scheme, right? Don't go trying to take things off the main scheme, which I have done on accident while this has been out. You need to pay attention and take the threat off of here first before you start taking off the main scheme. All right, let's talk about some of his cards here. So we've got hard to keep down. So Rhino heals 4. So he can't heal beyond his max hit points, right? So Rhino's got, when he starts out, he's got, 14 hit points per player, right? So this isn't going to allow him to heal to 18 or to 16 or anything else. He can only heal back up to his maximum. This card is one of the reasons why you really want to keep, even if it's just 1 damage on Rhino, you want to have him knocked down just a little bit, because you don't want this card to surge, right? And then he's not healing 4 damage potentially, he's only healing 1 damage, and that's going away. So it's good to keep just a little bit, if at all moments you want to keep just a little bit of damage on Rhino and not let him sit at full health, so that way this card doesn't surge and go to the next card. All right, next up we've got I'm Tough. It's a pretty standard one. You're going to give Rhino Tough. If he's already got Tough, it's going to surge, so you can't have a double Tough. You only get 1 Tough card. So let's talk about Shocker. So Shocker, when he comes into play, he's going to deal 1 damage to each hero. Again, that is each hero. That means your Spider-Man, your Thor, your Hulk will take a damage. Your Bruce Banner, your Odin's son, they do not take damage. If you're in alter ego form, you're not taking damage. It's just each hero. All right, and if you're playing multiplayer, that means any heroes on the board are taking damage. So if you are in hero form and your friend's in alter ego form, then they don't take damage, but you do. If you both happen to be in hero form, you both take damage. All right, this is one that has a little bit of confusion around it. It's the armored Rhino suit, or the silly suit. So with that, essentially it soaks up 5 points of damage. You're going to put you're going to put your damage on the suit, and then when there's at least 5 damage, it goes away. And that distinction is important, that it doesn't just soak up 5 damage. So if you're Hulk, you do a Hulk smash against Rhino, and he's got the armored Rhino suit on, and it's already taken 4 damage. The armored Rhino suit is going to soak up the rest of that damage because it hasn't hit the 5 yet. So all of the damage is going to go on the Rhino suit, and then you're going to check and see if that total amount of damage has surpassed 5, and then get rid of the armored Rhino suit. So Rhino suit can potentially take more than 5 damage before it goes away, but that's why you want to get right to that 5, and then get it out of there, and then do whatever your excess thing is after that. So save your big attacks until after you get the Rhino suit off of there. Otherwise, it's just going to soak it all up. So there you go, Armored Rhino suit. Let's see here, Stampede. So Stampede is one of the more annoying Rhino effects. The key thing there is to remember, if you are damaged, you are stunned. So if you backflip out of the way, you're all right, you're all good. But if he happens to combine that with something that gives him overkill, and he blows past a minion and damages you, you end up stunned. So two parts of that are, if he actually gets damage into you and you blocked with an ally through some means, you end up stunned. The other part is just remembering that you're stunned. A lot of times I've brought this out, no, he attacks again, and I forget that this is a stunning attack also. Being stunned is one of the more annoying effects in the game, especially when you're playing certain heroes that have a tough time getting out of it. But remember, Stampede stuns. All right, let's talk about Charge. So Charge is one of Rhino's more evil cards. So when Rhino's next attack, he's going to get +3. And he's going to get overkill. So what that means is when he hits your ally, if your ally has, let's say, 2 health, and Rhino attacks, let's say he attacks for 2, he's got a boost to 2, then he gets +3 attack, so that's a total of 7. He comes at your ally, you throw your ally in front of it, he's going to bleed over 5 damage into you after that because he's overkilling all the way over into you. Now, one of the things to note is if an ally has something like toughness, let's say your ally has 2 health and has toughness, that toughness is not going to absorb the full blow. The toughness will only absorb up to the max health of the ally. So if your ally only has 2 health with toughness, your ally won't die. They will soak up 2 of that damage. The toughness will go away, and then still that excess damage is going to come through to you to have to deal with. The good thing about this is you get to remember to discard Charge at the end of this attack. One of the annoying things is there's multiple charges in the deck, so these can stack and you can end up with +6. You add an Ivory Horn, you've got +7. You've got a boost out there. You've got Rhino attacking in expert mode on level 3 at 4. So you got 4, you draw a 2, so then you're at 6, and then you got Ivory Horn, you're at 7, and you've got 2 charges, and he's attacking for 13 with overkill. That's a lot of damage and can take a lot of heroes out in one shot. So you got to be careful with Rhino and his charge action going on there. Okay. Enhanced Ivory. Oh, one more thing. Let's go back and talk about Charge again real fast. So with Charge, one of the things to note also is that if he is stunned and he goes to attack, the charge does not go away because he didn't actually attack. Or if he's got webbed up on him, the charge doesn't go away because those replace his attacks. So he doesn't actually get the attack to make the charge go away. So he actually has to do the attack in order for the charge to have effect and then go away. All right, so let's talk about Ivory Horn. Ivory Horn's going to attach to Rhino. It's going to sit out there on the side and give him +1 attack. The thing to note with that is to get rid of the Ivory Horn, it takes 3 physical that you're going to spend out of your hand. Now, that is a hero action, so that's not something you can do as alter ego. Like let's say you're Black Panther and you use your city and now you've got this stack of cards in your hand. You have to switch over. You can't do that as T'Challa. You have to do that as Black Panther, right? It has to be a hero action. It can't be an alter ego action. So you're free to spend your 3 resources, but it has to be as a hero action. Luckily, if you're playing Hulk, like that's going to happen as a hero thing because your limited strength only happens as a hero. All right, Sandman, fairly basic ally. And the thing to remember with him, I have often overlooked the fact that he starts with toughness. Remember, he's got toughness. He's got some nice stats too. The 2 scheme and 3 attack makes you want to take care of him pretty quick. Luckily, he doesn't have a whole lot of health, so he's fairly easy to get out of the way. But remember, he comes into play with toughness. All right, last thing to talk about on the Rhino side is the Hydra Mercenary. So good thing about the Hydra Mercenary is he's got 0 scheme. So actually, minions will scheme. he's just going to scheme for 0 when that comes around. So if you have somebody like Quake out there, Quake can hit him when he goes to scheme. That's different for heroes. On the hero side of the stuff, you have to affect the board, so you can't do a thwart action. But villains, if they have a number there, they actually do that action. They just don't do it for anything. So Hydra Mercenary would scheme. He's just going to scheme for 0. The other thing to note there is Hydra Mercenary has guard. So this is a tough thing to wrap your head around when you're first learning to play, is he's going to block attack actions. So that means your normal attack where you tap your character and go to attack. You can't do that. You have to take, against the villain, you have to take the mercenary out first. You can attack, like if Shocker was out there, you could hit Shocker while the mercenary's out there, but you can't hit the villain while the mercenary's out there. Now, there are some effects that seem like they're attacks, but they're more of like kind of area effect kind of thing. So if you take a look at, I believe, like Ground Stomp, Hulk's Thunderclap, there's a few of them. Even the spell, what is it, the Bands of the Sidarok, Doctor Strange's big attack, is a spell. It's not actually an attack. These things get around guard because they're not direct attacks. They don't say attack in parentheses. Usually they'll say, like, right after your hero card, it will say attack and have like parentheses around it. That's what the Hydra Mercenary's guard is going to stop you from doing against the villain. Even things that are like a counter punch, I believe, is an attack. So if you go to counter punch, you can't counter punch the villain because you can't get past the guard in order to do that. So that's one of the tougher rules to wrap your head around, but Mercenary's got guard. Just remember, you can't do anything that says attack on it to the villain until you get the Hydra Mercenary out of the way. So, and he doesn't jump in front of it. That doesn't mean that he steps in front of an attack that you would do to the villain. That means that you can't do it. You have to aim that stuff at the mercenary first and take him out. So, all right. So that's it for a brief overview of rules around Rhino. I messed up a lot of Rhino rules. I tend to overlook some. Like, you get into the flow of a game and it's really easy to miss a rule. It's really easy to miss the Stampede stuns while you're playing. Sometimes it's tough to remember the overkill on the charge. You think that you've blocked it. Crowd control can be sitting out and you can take threat off of the main scheme even though you've got crowd control out there because you've got so many cards on the table. So even if you've played for a while, some of these things are easy to overlook while you're playing, but you know, there's some rules to watch out for there. So that's it for now. I'm hoping that going over this helps you play a little bit cleaner games. Me reviewing it helps me play a little bit cleaner games and remember things. So I guess now, I think I just heard the doorbell ring, and I think Rise of Red Skull may be at my door. So I've got some stuff to do. So I'll let you go for now, and thanks for watching.